that's where we need to have some guidelines that it comes back to this legislature when we take a look at where VMT is going to be applied and zero.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to item number SB 343. Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah, and I apologize, members, for taking up a chunk of this morning. This bill, I think most of you know that I've been spending a lot of time, along with a number of you, on trying to address some of the great structural challenges that exist with regards to waste and plastic and the impact that it's now having not only on our environment but also on our cities. One of the many things that I've come to be painfully aware of is how the marketing claims that are on products is getting so out of whack with the reality that people see the recycling symbol on their product and they put it in the recycling bin, I think fully expecting that it's going to be recycled. And of course, so many of those products are not. So a current law, this is the interesting thing, members, current law prohibits a manufacturer from making an untruthful environmental claim such as, recyclable. You can't write recyclable on a product if it's not recyclable, if it's not truly recyclable. But the law does not cover the chasing arrow symbol, so that that recycling symbol that we all know and see on our products. So now everybody thinks of that symbol that it means as recyclable. So a lot of companies who are not allowed to put recyclable on their products still go ahead and put the recycling symbol on their products, and then they say, oh, well, we're just trying to encourage people to recycle as much as they can. Well, the truth is it's incredibly deceptive. And by the way, the truth is that less than 15% of our single-use plastics are currently being recycled. And recycling costs now exceed the scrap value of the plastic material itself. Consumers, as I say, are dutifully filling their blue bins with items that they believe are recycling. Now, we started to call this phenomenon wish cycling because people, they want their products to be recycled, and they don't want to think that all the stuff that they're buying is just going straight to the landfill. Not only is so much of it going to the landfill, but actually the process of wish cycling is actually creating a lot of contamination in the waste stream, because the more stuff going into the recycling bins that are not truly recyclable, the more of it has to get sorted out, the more of it ends up getting stuck into bales of recyclable material. It's part of why China actually put the kibosh on all our materials being sent there, because we were sending bales of purportedly recyclable material that were contaminated by other materials. And so the idea is that if a material is not actually recyclable, it then has to be removed from the conveyor belt at the recycling facility, has to be carted away to a landfill. There's a whole process. If you have not been to a sorting facility, recycling facility, or a dump, I can't encourage you more to go. It's an eye-opening experience. The idea here is that we're going to get this issue resolved, that we're going to finally extend basically the anti-fraud language that exists with regards to putting recyclable on your bottle to the recycling symbol that everyone thinks of as meaning recyclable. And so with me to testify in support today, we've got Emily Rush with the California Public Interest Research Group, CalPIRG, and also Mark Aprea with Republic Services, who works in the waste management space, to speak in support of this bill.
Thank you. Please proceed then, those speaking in support.
Thank you so much. This is Emily Rush. I am the Executive Director of CalPIRG, the California Public Interest Research Group. We're a statewide consumer advocacy organization funded by thousands of individual Californian supporters throughout the state. Numerous studies have shown that most consumers assume that the chasing arrow symbol signifies that an item is able to be recycled. Many of us, myself included, take the time to check every container we use, and if I see that chasing arrow symbol somewhere on the container, rinse it out thoroughly and throw it in the blue bin. Unfortunately, as Senator Allen stated, experts have estimated that less than 15% of single-use plastic in California is actually recycled. Many manufacturers use the chasing arrow symbol on their hard plastic containers on the bottom of the container, regardless of whether the type of plastic is used is typically recycled, or whether additional packaging on top of the plastic container, like a plastic sleeve, make it impossible for the container to be recycled. Many manufacturers also place additional chasing arrow symbols prominently on the front or back of their packaging, regardless of the actual recyclability of the product. We have a plastic waste crisis on our hands. Plastics are seeping into every corner of our planet, from the depths of Lake Tahoe to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Plastic waste is also creating a financial burden ultimately borne by consumers, ratepayers, and taxpayers who have to pay to get rid of it. We need companies to start using recycled material to create their products and ensure that those products are made so that they can be recycled back into new products at the end of their life. It is impossible for the marketplace to reward good actors and avoid bad actors if consumers are duped. SB 343 will help clarify for consumers which products are able to be recycled and which will almost certainly end up in a landfill. We urge your aye vote.
Thank you, and I think next speaker.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mark Aprea on behalf of Republic Services. Senator Allen, thank you for introducing this measure. This is a very significant measure designed to increase recycling efficiency. California's recycling infrastructure is one of the most effective and efficient recycling systems in the world. But in spite of billions of dollars being invested into a system and infrastructure to improve recycling, contamination remains one of the most significant and expensive obstacles. Significant investments have been made in extensive manual sort lines, optical sorters, screens, and other advanced technologies. But these technologies and equipment are far more expensive than consumer education and effective source reduction. Local jurisdictions and their local haulers spend millions of dollars annually educating our customers on what is recyclable in an effort to improve recycling rates and reduce contamination. But these dollars are wasted if the packaging or materials include markings that falsely claim these packages or materials are recyclable. False claims of recyclability confuse customers who already struggle to identify correctly what should be placed in the recycling bin. SB 343 is fundamentally about truth in advertising. Don't claim your packaging or material is recyclable unless there are actual recycling markets for the material and it can be readily and efficiently removed from the waste stream. As an example, plastic film bags, while offering consumers a relatively cheap packaging option, weigh very little for recycling purposes and constitute less than 5% of the total waste stream. Yet these bags clog recycling and composting machinery, create litter problems at facilities, and are expensive to remove from the waste stream. Consumers should not be led to believe that these bags and other materials like it are truly recyclable unless the market exists, and these materials can be effectively removed from the waste stream. SB 343 sets an effective and clear standard for recyclability that will increase recycling efficiencies, improve consumer confidence in recycling, and will reduce recycling costs for ratepayers, local jurisdictions, and recyclers. Therefore, we respectfully request the committee's aye vote.
Thank you. I'd like to now, before I go to the those teleconferencing in, I'd like to look in the rooms, and I don't see anyone here in 4203 who wishes to add their support. Looking at the screen over there, 2040, I do not see anyone in there wishing to come forward to support. So we will go now to those online. Madam Moderator, will you please line up the queue for those wishing to support?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to speak in support of SB 343, please press 1, then 0. An operator will provide you with your line number and place you back into queue. Once again, if you wish to speak in support of SB 343, please press 1, then 0 now. And Madam Chair, it looks like we have about 11 queuing up at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Line number 18, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair and members. Nikita Karate with the Natural Resources Defense Council calling in support.
Line number 76, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair and members. Priscilla Kudos on behalf of National Stewardship Action Council, co-sponsors of SB 343 in support, and I'm also calling on behalf of California Product Stewardship Council, who are also in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Line number 79, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning. This is Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California in support. Thank you.
Line number 66, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. This is Jennifer Fearing here in support of SB 343 for the Ocean Conservancy. Thank you.
Line number 72, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This is Lauren Cullum on behalf of Sierra Club California, calling in strong support.
Line number 30, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Good morning. This is Bonnie Benuel with Californians Against Waste. We are proud to co-sponsor SB 343 today and thank Senator Allen for his continued leadership on this issue. Thank you.
Line number 77, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. John Moffitt on behalf of Waste Management in support.
Line number 78, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Tim Goncharoff, Santa Cruz County, in support.
Line number 20, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning. This is Elise Fondrick from the California League of Conservation Voters calling in support of the bill. Thank you.
Line number 81, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello, Kayla Robinson on behalf of Rethink Waste in support. Thank you.
Line number 36, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning. This is Miha Laguerre on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation. I'm here in support of 343. Thank you.
Line number 82, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair and members. Stephanie Morwell on behalf of Recology in support of the bill.
Line number 83, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair and members. Genevieve Abaddon on behalf of Heal the Bay, Northern California Recycling Association, Plastic Pollution Coalition, Save Our Shores, Seventh Generation Advisors, the Five Gyres Institute, and Upstream in support of this bill.
And at this time, Madam Chair, we have no one else in support of SB 343.
Thank you. We'll now go to the opposition and those who are on the line to speak in opposition. Lead speakers.
Shannon Crawford and Lauren Aguilar, your lines are open.
All right, Lauren, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, Chair Allen and members of the committee. My name is Lauren Aguilar, and I'm here representing Ameripen, the American Institute for Packaging and the Environment. We are the only material-neutral packaging association in the United States. We have several members with facilities in California and many more who import packaging materials and products into the state. I am testifying today in opposition to SB 343 that is currently drafted. It would restrict the use of the chasing arrow symbol by itself or surrounding a resin identification code or any other symbol or statement indicating a product is recyclable if the product is not deemed to be recyclable by CalRecycle. The issue with prohibiting the chasing arrows alone or around a resin identification code is that many states require it by law. Individual states like California are removing the mandate for packaging to have the chasing arrows and the RIC, but a majority are still requiring them.
Another example of where prohibition of the chasing arrow symbol would be problematic is for companies that use the national how to recycle label on their packaging, which for the most part has the chasing arrows picture on it. The goal of the how to recycle label is to reduce consumer confusion with a clear and consistent recycling label and corresponding informational website. This is so consumers can properly recycle the package, whether it be by telling them to check locally or to remove a shrink label on a bottle of mayo before recycling the bottle. Many American members are working to increase recycling and the reuse of their packaging. We also believe that consumers should be getting accurate information about the recyclability of the products and the packages that they are purchasing. We believe that adopting national standards for labels on packaging will be most effective in making sure more material is getting recycled and will stop consumer confusion. Consumers should be encouraged to recycle packaging that is recyclable, and manufacturers should be encouraged to provide information that will help consumers do so. We appreciate the conversations that we've had with the chair's office, and we believe that by working together, we can create a solution to solve contamination in the curbside bins and help more materials get recycled in California. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I look forward to our continued conversations around this bill, Chair Allen.
Thank you. Is Ms. Crawford available online?
Yes, good morning, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shannon Crawford, and I'm with the Plastics Industry Association. We represent the entire supply chain for plastics manufacturing in the United States, which includes over 61,000 workers in California. I'm testifying to express our concerns with SB 343 because, as written, it will result in less recycling and more materials to landfill. Sustainability is the primary focus of our members and our association. While we certainly support efforts to reduce contamination in the recycling system, we unfortunately cannot support SB 343 as written. People want to recycle, that much is true, but making it harder to recycle. The criteria outlined in SB 343 to determine recyclability is severely restrictive. Using this criteria, the Statewide Commission on Recycling Markets and Curbside Recycling determined only PET and HDPE bottles would be accepted as widely recyclable across the state. Not only would highly recyclable materials be labeled as non-recyclable, but there are no substitutes with the performance capabilities provided by these recyclable materials. Alternatives cost more for small businesses. The environmental impacts of alternatives like paper packaging or metal are more resource intensive and emit more carbon emissions. And there is a lacking infrastructure for popular alternatives like compostables. Instead of imposing severely restrictive labeling systems, stakeholders should work together to advance a more modern recycling system that can capture and recycle more materials. Real improvements in the system can only be achieved by an emphasis on developing and marketing the sortation of materials. I'd like to highlight two projects that can achieve the overall goals of this bill. Our new End Market Opportunities, or NEMO program, is currently advancing several projects using recycled PE film as a polymer additive in asphalt. One of these projects in Cincinnati, Ohio, was able to use 4,000 pounds of recycled PE film. Another project is in the works right here in California. We led a secondary sorting project that demonstrated an estimated 50,000 tons per year of additional recyclable material could be recovered by an additional sort. The further sortation of these materials increases their market value. These projects are improving recycling capabilities and expanding access. This legislation would ultimately increase emissions as manufacturers would be forced to switch from lightweight, efficient plastics to bulkier, heavier materials. As written, SB 343 will result in more materials to landfill. However, we do look forward to working with Senator Allen and his staff on solutions to make this bill workable and help improve, not inhibit, recycling. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now we will look to room 4203. I do not see anyone wishing to speak in opposition, nor do I see anyone in 2040 wishing to speak in opposition, so we will go to the phone lines. And Madam Moderator, do we have anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to speak in opposition of SB 343, please press 1, then 0. An operator will provide you with your line number and place you back into queue. Once again, if you wish to speak in opposition of SB 343, please press 1, then 0 now. In one moment, Madam Chair, it looks like we have 2 people queuing up at the moment.
Thank you.
One moment, just waiting for their line numbers, Madam Chair. Thank you. Line number 28, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Nicole Quinones on behalf of the Household and Commercial Products Association, as well as the Pet Food Institute. We are also opposed, but look forward to working with the author. Thank you.
Line number 84, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Madam Vice Chair and Senators, Anthony Molina on behalf of the Consumer Brands Association. We are opposed unless amended at this time to SB 343. Thank you.
And at this time, Madam Chair, we have no one else in queue in opposition of SB 343.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We will now come back to the committee. Are there any comments that committee members would like to make or any questions? Senator Daly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair. Okay, so I just have a quick couple questions for the author. I heard in the testimony from Mr. Perea that indicated about market demand. So I understand, first of all, I go back a long ways in the recycling world in plastics. Senator Gordon, or Assemblymember Gordon and I worked on a little bit different issues, but it was needles. Yeah, it was anyway, it is complex, it is frustrating, and so I want to applaud you for that, but so there's a 75% recycle right now mandate that we have on plastics. We understand that there's contamination, and that causes us not to be able to, I guess, market the product. And so what happens if we're going to give power to CalRecycle to evaluate symbols? I'm a little nervous about giving them the power, number one. I don't mind us picking and choosing which ones we think, with good testimony and understand the marketability and all those things, but to just give them the power, if they don't meet the 70, so let's just take for an example, they ban some of these products that aren't, I guess, legit. I guess so. People are frauding the systems. What I hear you saying is that I'm not aware of that. That's news to me.
Well, they wouldn't ban the products. They would just say that you can't claim that your item's recyclable when it's not recyclable. In the end of the day, when it's not being recycled.
Okay, so that's a key word you just said there. Not being. Is it recyclable or is it not recyclable?
But this
tires are recyclable, but you can't get rid of them.
I know.
So this is where we need to have the discussion about.
Absolutely, Senator. So this is one of the biggest problems in our system, and that is that there are a lot of products that are technically recyclable under perfect conditions. You could put them in a lab and fire them up at 1,000 degrees and at an incredible expense, turn it into something new, and that is technically recyclable. But in the real world, in real day life, everyday life, these items are there's just simply no market there, whether it be the sorting process or whether it be the market, whether it be the cost or the energy expenditure associated with turning these things into something new. For whatever reason, these items don't end up getting recycled at the end of the day. Now, so we're trying to get some truth in advertising so that the general public, who doesn't realize that these items are not getting recycled, has a better sense. Now, here's the thing. If we can create an infrastructure for these items to be recycled, this bill actually provides a path for those products that are not being recycled now to get into the recyclable category. And I can talk to you about it if you like. But in the end of the day, what we don't want people to do is to continue to, put these chasing arrow symbols onto their products when, in actuality, these items are not being recycled. So, but in terms of incentivizing, I'm happy to chat with you about this. But like I'll take there's an on-ramp that we have in the bill that would allow manufacturers the opportunity to encourage consumers to recycle the product while they make the necessary investments to collect and sort and then reprocess it. And then they can, if they're able to create a mechanism where their items actually starting to get recycled, then they can put the chasing arrow symbols back on.
So thank you for that clarification. I think that needs to be really daylighted out, that this bill is not about something that can be recycled. This bill is about, it's just not getting recycled because there's no market for it. That's really what you're saying. There's no, or the cost is too high. So when I go,
a lot of factors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, so it's, when you say it's contaminating the bale, so I don't have a product that I could.
Let's say film, like newspaper bag, like a film. That's a real contaminant. It is recyclable technically, but the waste people hate it because it basically just messes up the bales. It's never ultimately recycled. It gets ripped up. So that's an example, for example.
So we're going to have to re-educate the public on that piece, that saying it just doesn't meet the standard of, or it's recyclable, but we just can't figure out it's too costly or whatever. So you're gonna, what's going to happen? I just wish there was a better solution is what I'm trying to say. And this, and this is going to put it off on the, it's going to put it off on the manufacturer. It's going to give more power to Cal Recycle, which that's the last thing I want. I mean,
the better solution is SB 54, right? I mean, the fact that we would have a more comprehensive approach to this, where that we would basically be asking the producers in general to start moving toward more sustainable packaging.
Right. I was on the committee, we went through that bill, and they brought a whole stack of them up here, and they said, this one meets, this one doesn't.
And we're coming back. We're coming back with that bill.
But you're saying the plastic doesn't have the recycled symbol on it.
That's right.
You're saying.
So what's going to happen if we let's just take, for example, we take the symbol off. That Cal Recycle takes a symbol off of these products that don't meet some certain criteria because they're just not getting recycled. Those are going to go into a landfill now.
Which is where they're going now anyway, by the way.
Right, so we have a 75% reduction. Is Cal Recycle's goal is for 75%. So if that goes up, what happens then? What happens if we can't meet that because we're dumping all these recyclables in?
You are making the case for SB 54, and I hope to convince you to be a co-author.
Well, I find it hard it's really difficult to vote for something that is, first of all, giving more power to the Cal Recycle, and also it's confusing, it's going to confuse the public. And these brands are national brands. What are other states? I mean, I know we're probably way further ahead in mandating than other states, or are there other states that are doing the same thing?
So actually, Washington and Oregon, all three states have announced similar legislation. So the idea is that we'll hopefully, I mean, and they look to have a decent chance of passage that this is going to help to push, just like with the NCAA. Remember there was a time when the NCAA said there's no way, and Nancy Skinner had her bill on the athletes, right, and compensating them, and they said that California can't go out on its own. This is outrageous. We're going to cut the Pac-10 out of the NCAA. Well, she said, this is unfair. We're going to move forward on this anyway. And in fact, then the NCAA ended up adopting, within about a year, they adopted the California standards. So it's true that the country has not moved enough on this issue, but I think people all over the country, I was just on a conference call of legislators from all over the country, they know this is a problem everywhere. And so you're seeing more and more states try to take a stand. I think this is an opportunity for us in conjunction with Oregon and Washington to just reset the conversation nationally, because we're basically lying to ourselves right now. I sense your frustration, and it's a real frustration. But the truth is, if this stuff's not being recycled, and all it's doing is gumming up the system, at the very least, until we create a more comprehensive approach to this problem, we're lying to ourselves if we continue to claim that these items are being recyclable. They're not.
All right, first of all, I'm going to lay off your bill. I want to get there because I get what you're trying to do, but I just don't know if the pathway is, but I want to make a statement. So I was at the local level when they did 50% out of landfills. We actually had landfills before, this is in the 90s when we started. And I want to just talk about tires for a minute because this is really frustrating to me. And somebody who owns trucks and uses tires, a lot of them, I pay the fee, and it's supposed to I can take it back to the dealer that I bought the tire from, and I get my $4 or I get it, whatever. It gets recycled. But I also have a concrete company in my district that can use those tires, and they actually can turn them up to whatever degrees they got to burn and make concrete, something we need in California. So, but the Air Board is in conflict with my concrete supplier and putting regulations on them because of the air quality standards there. So it doesn't really we ship them to China and they burn the heck out of them, not even in a controlled environment like we have. And you want to talk about frustrating? It's like, and we feel good. We feel all good because we charged the money to the business for the tire. The tire got recycled, but it got sent to China and it got put in a boiler that's puking out smoke that I'm breathing. What did we do? Did we really solve the air quality problem? Did we solve the recycling? No, we didn't. We should look at incentives to use those products in California where we're leading the nation in the strategy. But at the end of the day, if we can't go full cycle and make it happen here, and we're just shoving it off to some other state or some other country where they're not meeting the standard, what good are we doing? It's the same thing you're saying about just throwing it in the landfill and feeling good about it.
Yep.
So I want to lay off your bill. And I'll be back there on 54 and look at that one too. But at some point you have to be honest with the people.
Yep.
That we're not really doing what you say you're doing, but we're charging you.
Yep.
And we're also not allowing you to recycle. So it doesn't, all it comes out is, hey, California's leading the way. We do all these things that feel good, but really, if you dig down deep and get in the weeds, it doesn't do what we say we're doing.
Honestly, you're making the case for 54. You're making the case for 54.
But let me follow it up then. With who gets penalized?
Who gets penalized?
The consumer? Either pays more. At the end, they're going to pay more because somebody's going to have to do something to change the...
Oh, yeah. Sacramento County just raised their rates $10 a month.
Yeah, I know. I'm living here.
Yeah.
Trust me. Yep. My water bill went up too.
Yeah.
So who at the end of the day, and what ends up happening is the consumer.
Yep.
You can't afford to live in California because all these, this is just one of thousands of programs. And I mean, if you want me to get fired up about the Air Board, I will. But we're not talking about that right now. My point is that the consumer pays, everybody feels good about it, and at the end of the day, it didn't do anything but just run the rate up. So let's solve the problem. Let's figure out how ways we can keep these products in California and make the full loop.
But here's the thing, Senator. There are some items that are very recyclable, some plastic items, the ones in the twos, right? It's the PET, and then you have the 3 through 7s, which are not, right? They just aren't. They're for all intents and purposes, they're not recyclable. Technically, they are, but the system, it's so difficult to make that pencil out. The truth of the matter is, the plastic manufacturers are the ones who hold the controls here. They can decide whether they're going to market the cat food, bottle in a number 3 or a number 2. And if they put in the 1 or 2, it's much more likely to be recycled than the number 3. And yet right now, they have no skin in the game. They could put out whatever product they want, and there's literally no accountability. And as you say, it's ultimately the consumers who are paying the price because they've insisted on putting out the non-recyclable stuff when they actually could put out the recyclable stuff. And as a result, our whole system is breaking down because we have so much of the non-recyclable stuff going through the stream as opposed to the recyclable stuff. So part of what we want to do here is push the producers toward the more recyclable stuff. That's ultimately the goal here. And if we do that, that will actually help the consumers in a very tangible way because it's going to help the whole system work better. It's going to make it much less likely that the hauler is going to continue to ask for rate increases and the counties are going to continue to pass these rate increases on people to basically Band-Aid over this broken system that is currently, the consumers are paying the cost for decisions that are made by the producers ultimately. So we need to start holding those producers accountable and push them in a more coherent, sustainable direction. And that's the goal here. With this bill, it's the goal with 54. It's also the goal, Lorena Gonzalez, the bill addressing the issue that you just talked about, which is to basically say you can't take credit for diversion when you're sending stuff out of state and it's getting burned. So it's all about creating more accountability, more truth, and providing our consumers with the truth as to what's happening. Because right now they just think they throw in their stuff into a blue bin and everything goes off and is taken care of, and of course it's not. And they're paying the price now because of the increasing dysfunction of our system.
So I want to first say, I love this committee. This is my favorite committee and I love the people on the committee because you guys all of you are thoughtful and it allows us to get in the weeds. I appreciate that. But when you talk about truth, the real truth is that doesn't get told, is that you can't afford to live in California. We do everything at We lead the world in everything, and we also lead the world in poverty. We lead the world in highest taxes, highest energy cost. Our houses are built, I mean, now the standards are outstanding worldwide. There's no place that we do it any better, but the cost, at some point we have to figure out how do we keep people here, because they're exporting California, because all these things add layers to the cost. And it's just what you said about, my bill went up $10. And trust me, I'm recycling. I got the blue bins. My daughter and I, we're trying to, this is the first time living in Sacramento where I actually have a home. We're renting a home where we actually do it. We have to go to our landfill in Lassen County to the transfer station and put it into each bin there. So we recycle it at home. It doesn't get, so it goes to a MRF where it gets then hand recycled. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. Because we don't have curbside when your houses are 20 miles apart, okay? So I guess my point is that I'm gonna lay off your bill. I appreciate the committee. I appreciate the people on the committee, and I want the story to be told that, at some point we have to factor in, is California gonna have any people left? Or is it just gonna have an elite bunch of people? And we're not gonna be able to have these lower, and we talk about disadvantaged communities, and this all impacts the single mom who's going to the store and is trying to buy disinfectant wipes right now to keep their family safe.
All I'll say is that there are some bills we pass here that do raise costs on people. This ultimately is about trying to lower costs on people, right? It's ultimately about recognizing the cost drivers that are driving our waste management system down and trying to come up with some solutions that will make the system more coherent and ultimately less expensive for regular folks.
Any other comments? Senator Wachowski, did you have something? No. After that. I think they covered it all, except I'll just add a postscript if I might. This is all about the consumer, and I don't believe the consumers look at the package and look for the sign. Right now, they understand what they can recycle because it's been so standardized education since, what was it, AB 89 or SB 89 many, many years ago. So consumer education is probably fundamental before any of these work, and you don't have a component in here for that. I think, if you advertise in the LA Times, the major newspapers for about a month, full page, this is no longer recyclable, they finally get it, but they don't now, because I never look. I'm still operating on what my local, we now have the organic waste little bins. It was difficult to understand initially what to do with those because the education on them was a little lacking. So I think our waste haulers, who've been very involved and great partners with local government, want to do it right, and they want us consumers, neighborhood folks with our blue and black and green band to do it right. But that's quite lacking. And so looking for a sign that's got that little thing on it, I don't think people do that. Even if it's, and catching the people who will not obey this new law is going to be a huge enforcement, more employees, more costs. So I just think taking a look at an education component to all this is really very, very important. But with that, I'm just going to lay off because I do agree, Ben. I think we need to get there, absolutely. But this is a step in a kind of the right direction, but it lacks letting people know. You're just letting industry know, and that's going to take some time, and people need to understand a little better of what's happening. And I've learned just being here. And so I've started to change at home myself, taking a closer look at what I'm throwing in, the green bin and the blue bin. So I'm just a little postscript, but.
Well, so for my close, I guess all I would say is one could argue that 54 is more of a letting industry know. Mm-hmm. This is truly about education, because ultimately this is about what the producers put on their products that they send out to the consumers. The consumer brands, who are the folk, they're one of the most important industry players in this space, did a poll, and nearly 3/4 of all consumers think that recycling symbol means that the item is fully recyclable, and that it means it should be put in the blue bin. So at least the data we have, at least the survey data we have, suggests that the use of that symbol is a powerful symbol, and it really does determine whether someone decides to put it in the blue bin or not. And so, so this truly is, if anything, is, there's one thing to take out ads in the LA Times, but sometimes you're thinking, oh, is this item recyclable? Is it not? If you got it there on the item, right there, smack dab on the items, that's going to be what ultimately overrides in the consumer's mind, and it's going to determine whether they throw it in the bin or not. And so this is ultimately about signaling to the consumers the recyclability of an item and just truth in advertising. So anyway, we've had a very robust discussion. Happy to talk to everybody, and I do want to thank the opposition speakers for talking about how we're working together. Let's try to figure out a mutually agreeable way of landing this plane. I mean, ultimately, this is not doing away with plastic products or packaging. It's about trying to be truthful to consumers as to the types of plastics that are truly recyclable and those that are just not under our system. We do need more comprehensive reform. There's no question about it, and that's what ultimately SB 54 is about. That's also what some of the infrastructural plays are about that we're working on. But in the meantime, our consumers deserve to know, and this is what SB 343 provides them with, that information about recyclability. So with that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and I appreciate my colleagues' discussion.
Senator Allen, are you taking the committee?
Yes, I'm taking the committee amendments. I should mention that.
Okay.
Yes.
And the motion is to do pass, re-refer to Committee on Judiciary with committee amendments. Please call the roll.
Item number 4, SB 343 by Senator Allen. The motion is do pass as amended, but first amend and re-refer to the Committee on Judiciary. Allen.
Aye.
Allen, aye. Bates. Dally.
Not voting.
Dally not voting. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Gonzalez, aye. Skinner. Stern. Wachowski.
Aye.
Wachowski, aye.
We have 3 votes. We'll keep the roll open for our members to return, and then it will be, we'll know if, I'm sure it will be approved by that. Yes. So next item is SB 502, is that correct?
No, I think we're going to go to Senator Gonzalez.
Oh, okay, we're going to go back. Okay. And you get the pleasure.
Yes, I think so. All right, I'll
Do you have this one?
Okay, yes, I've got that.
Okay, good.
Thank you. At least the long committee nightmare is over. No more Allen bills, at least until the end. So I appreciate your forbearance.